Hello and welcome. My name's Sissy and I'm Timothy's widow. So, in the process of navigating this grief journey, there are a few things that I have learned either from my own personal experience or from other grieving spouses. And that is why I created today's video. It is an attempt to have people not only listen, but see what types of things they may have to deal with in the event of an unexpected loss of your loved one. So that's why I've titled the video, "You Must Do These Things Now." So today's video is going to be geared for anyone who recently said yes when asked the question, "Will you marry me?" So you've gotten engaged, or you have recently begun planning your wedding. Anyone in a relationship with newborn or young children, and that is whether you are married or not married. Anyone who is in any type of a committed, living together forever relationship. The whole point of this video is you never know what tomorrow will bring, and there are many things that I know that young people who have just fallen in love and are getting ready to start their life out, there are many things that they don't consider as a necessity right away. The sad fact is that what we're going to cover today is every bit as important as picking out that engagement ring or saying yes to a perfect dress. Because when it comes down to it, in the end, if the unexpected happens, that engagement ring and that wedding dress mean absolutely nothing. But the things we're going to talk about today can potentially be a very valuable, life-saving tool for the spouse that is left behind after your loss. So, a little bit of a serious topic here, but I think it's very important to talk about because I do not think enough people give this much consideration. They always think that they have plenty of time, that they can wait till they're maybe in their late 30s or in their 40s or even in their 50s to begin thinking about these things. Sadly, that's not the case. The point is, the very moment that you commit to any type of a relationship, the very moment that you find out that you are expecting a baby, the very moment that you set foot into a jewelry store to pick out a diamond, or you walk into a wedding dress store to pick out a dress, that is the time that you need to be starting to work on doing these things. So if you're young and you're just starting out in this new relationship, found out you're having a baby, just getting married, whatever, congratulations. It's a wonderful time in life and enjoy every moment of it because it really does go by too quickly. Now, I don't want to talk gloom and doom, but this is very important conversation that we're going to have. So if any of these situations apply to you, the first question that you need to ask yourself is, do you have life insurance? If you don't, you need to act upon that immediately. Like, if you're planning a wedding, that needs to be at the top of one of your wedding planning activities. If you do have life insurance, who do you have listed as the beneficiaries on the policy? Sadly, too many grieving spouses, especially those who maybe get together later in life, already have pre-existing policies. So their beneficiaries can be anybody from other relatives to a previous girlfriend, boyfriend, previous wife, previous husband. And in the event that something happens to you, if you have overlooked changing the beneficiary, your new current spouse, significant other, and your children could suffer greatly. Now, case in point. On the grief groups, there have been discussions of couples who did have existing life insurance, but they had people such as mothers, fathers, siblings, ex-wives, ex-husbands listed. And then the unthinkable happened. And the grieving spouse could very well have benefited from the insurance money. Sadly, other people were listed as beneficiaries on the policies. And sadly, there are far too many people out there that do not have compassionate hearts. So they see this insurance policy as their money, and they feel that they're entitled to all of it, which by legal standards with the signatures and the names provided on the beneficiary, that would be true. Unfortunately, many grieving spouses are left in such horrible situations. There may not be any other insurance policy. The spouse left behind may not even have a job. Accounts can be frozen, so they don't even have access to money. So it is important that you make sure that you've got the appropriate people listed as beneficiaries on your policy. If there are children involved in your relationship, you need to get life insurance at the top of your list now. And you make sure that the correct people are listed. So the next thing you need to ask yourself is, do you have a savings account? Now, you may be wondering, why a savings account? Well, the sad reality is that after the loss of a loved one, there are a lot of legal and financial issues that may have to be considered. There are instances where, depending on how accounts are set up, whose name is the primary account holder, there is the possibility that assets can be frozen for quite some time. The truth is that after a loss, the surviving spouse is going to need money immediately, especially if they are not working. When you're first starting out a relationship, obviously you don't know what the future holds. So you might both be working now, and things might be going fairly well. But always keep in mind that the unthinkable can happen. One of you can develop a long-term illness, a terminal illness. Obviously the unexpected happens. We lose spouses every day in a variety of ways. So you want to try to set the savings account up as soon as possible, no matter how young you are. So the first thing that I would recommend is check with your bank on how an account would be handled in the event of an unexpected loss of your loved one. So sit down with somebody in the bank and discuss your concerns and find out the answers to all of the questions, so that you know that you are handling your money correctly. For some people, the best option might be to set up a joint account. For some people, it might be a better option to set up an account for each of you. It all really just depends. Again, you just need to go in and sit down and speak with a live person at your bank branch and determine how you can best set this into motion and then allow it to work for you in the future. So depending on how the bank handles accounts in the event of an unexpected loss, you need to plan to have the savings accessibility set up and in place. This means that you need to ensure that whichever one of you is the surviving spouse, that you have immediate access to the money should the unthinkable happen. You want to try to get to the point where you have at least six months, if not more, income or savings set aside so that your survivor can immediately access that money. By starting at a young age and continuing to make wise purchasing decisions and making it a habit to deposit money regularly into these accounts, you're setting up a solid financial future for your spouse and possible future family. It doesn't get talked about a lot by people. All of the things that come into an unexpected loss. Everybody will talk about how to plan your wedding, what kind of flowers, should you have a summer wedding, winter wedding, what kind of dress you should get, what kind of diamond you should get. People will talk to you about what kind of car they recommend. How often does the topic of losing a spouse unexpectedly come up? It usually doesn't. Not unless somebody in your immediate family has had it happen to them. So if it hasn't and it's never been a part of your family's discussion, then you need to start taking into account and planning accordingly. So the next thing you need to think about is, do you have a car or a truck or any other type of motorized vehicle? You need to know what would happen to the vehicle in the event of an unexpected loss. Whose name is it in? Who's making the payments? If you're still making payments on the vehicle, know what would happen to the account that you're paying on and the vehicle in the event of an unexpected loss. If your vehicle is already paid for, learn how and what is needed for the surviving spouse to redo all the necessary paperwork to transfer it to their name. I can tell you from the grief group, there have been posts from many widows and widowers who stood in their driveway or their parking lot at their apartment or wherever they live and cried because they watched their vehicle being towed away because they couldn't make the payments for it. It wasn't in their name. They weren't able to legally claim the vehicle as theirs. Many times this was the only vehicle that the person had access to. So you need to know that you have got things established from the get-go to make things as easy for the surviving spouse as possible. There is nothing worse than seeing your loved one's vehicle being towed away, especially if it is your only vehicle. The next thing we want to look at is, do both of you have credit cards? What you want to make sure is that you have at least one credit card to each of you that is set up totally under your own credit and your own name. You don't want to have only joint credit cards. If it is a joint account credit card and it is under the primary account holder is the spouse who passes away, you, the surviving spouse, will not be able to keep that credit card. And in the event that you've never set your own credit up and don't have a credit card, after the loss of a spouse, it can be extremely harsh to open up a credit card. There's may be so many different challenges to actually be accepted that it might take you years to get a credit card of your own. So that is definitely something that you both want to get established in the event that something does unexpected happen on down the road. You also want to make sure that you maintain good credit. You want to try to make sure that you're not carrying a very high balance on the credit card, because sadly, many grieving spouses will find that after the loss, due to all kinds of legal things and frozen accounts and all this other stuff that can happen, a credit card may be the only thing that they have to pay for groceries and car gas and to feed the children. So you definitely want to make sure that you do everything that you can to have a credit card established and have an amount available in case you need it. So again, I want to stress the fact that I'm not trying to put gloom and doom on your life, but these are very important things to consider and to consider immediately. While you may be living in a time of extreme happiness right now, your ability to think and prepare for the future, for your loved one and for your children, can have an extreme effect on how your loved one would handle life after your loss. So take into consideration some of these real life events that have happened. Grieving spouses often get kicked out of the home they were living in due to the family members who own the home or the house or trailer or whatever the situation is. Sadly, it's usually the family of the loved one who passed away. And I specifically know of one young widow who a lot of this applies to. Not just one item, but almost everyone on the list. His family owned the house, and they basically gave her, I want to say it was within a week after he passed away, they basically gave her notice that she needed to move out of the house, and basically she sold almost everything she owned. She really didn't have any furniture that she could call her own. She had her child, and she had her car, and they had their clothes and personal items. And let's just say that there was an ongoing yard sale for, I want to say, at least a week longer, because basically she had no home for her and her child. So you need to make sure that you do everything that you can do now, so that in the event that the unexpected happens, that not only your spouse but your children are taken care of. Grieving spouses often lose vehicles because of how the accounts were set up, and then their continuing ability to have sufficient finances to continue paying for the vehicle on top of everything else that you have to pay for. As I already said, there have been many grieving people who have stood in their driveways and watched their vehicles being towed away because they could not pay for them. This wasn't because they had the option to sell them. It was because these vehicles were being repossessed. Many grieving spouses discover after a loss that there is no life insurance, or that the beneficiaries were never changed or updated. So somebody else is getting that insurance money. Sadly, most of those people who receive the insurance money in these situations do not share with the grieving spouse. In other words, they won't even give your wife or your husband or your children a damn dime. I don't know legally if there's anything that you can do to fight this kind of situation, but I am sure that if you would have to, again, your grieving spouse is going to have to spend a hell of a lot of money that they shouldn't have to. And here's the thing. If you get into a relationship, if you break up with your girlfriend, boyfriend, if you divorce, it's not that difficult to get in there and change the beneficiaries. In fact, I would suggest at the beginning of the year, every year, look at all your insurance policies. Having multiple ones is actually a better thing than having just one. Take a look at them and see who the beneficiaries are. And if you need to get them changed the first week of January. Make that a yearly habit. You want to stay up to date on that as much as you can. From year to year, your situation could change as well. You could have children, additional children that you didn't have the prior year. So just make that a yearly habit. Stay on top of that. Many grieving spouses will find themselves selling damn near everything. Literally everything. They'll find themselves living in their car. or having church members open up their homes to surviving spouses and children. Just think about your loved one and your children having to bounce from church member's home to church member's home for anywhere from 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year, even longer. Imagine them having to bounce from relatives on their side of the family because your side of the family basically dumped them out of the house, dumped them out of their lives, and everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. So really sit and think about that, how you would feel about that, and then do what the heck you need to do to take care of your family. Many grieving spouses will often find themselves having to actually sell the home that you bought together and decorated together and created a life together. Many of them will find themselves moving into tiny, horrible apartments and really crappy neighborhoods because life after your loss changes dramatically, and it's usually not for the better. Another thing you need to think about is, do you have a will? Do you know if your spouse will be okay financially after your loss? If you do not know the answers to these questions, or you're not positive how accounts and things are set up now, then you need to take the time today to have this discussion with your loved one and start preparing the future with just as much enthusiasm as you are preparing for your wedding or for the birth of your first child. Tomorrow is never promised to anyone. Most people are under the misconception that widowhood or being a widower usually doesn't happen after 70s or 80s, and sadly that is not the case. There are widows as young as in their late teens, early 20s, with young infants or children on the way. And guess what? You haven't taken any steps to try to prepare for the future, and their life will become a living nightmare. Not only will they be navigating the horrible grief journey and dealing with your loss, they're also going to be dealing with the fact that the rest of their life went to hell in a handbasket, literally in the blink of an eye. So, not to put doom and gloom on the happy spell of your life, the happy times, but tomorrow is never promised to anyone. And if this message reaches even just one person, and it can make a difference, so that when your grieving spouse 10, 15 years down the road unexpectedly loses you, their loved one, from whatever happens, at least you'll know that you've been working towards and preparing the best possible future for them after the unexpected happens. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. While none of us think it can happen to us, the sad reality is it happens far too often, and too many of us are unprepared. The truth is, the surviving spouse's ability to navigate the hell known as the grief journey, and then to be able to come out on the other side somewhat still intact and functioning, really is dependent on how financially secure he or she is after an unexpected loss. While I'm happy for you if you're just starting out your new journey of love and marital bliss, we really do need to consider reality. And the reality is that far too often, many grieving spouses actually give up because of the additional financial struggles and the fact that there is nobody able to step up and help them through the hell that they have been thrown into after an unexpected loss. Many of these additional tragic losses could possibly have been prevented if only a little future thinking had been done. If you're new to the channel, I always close out the video by asking you, the viewer, to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so that you'll know when new content is available. As always, please feel free to comment on any of my videos. I would love to hear from you. Let me know if there is a topic that you would love to see me cover. I would be honored to do it for you. And if you have any questions in regards to today's topic, please go ahead and put them in the comments section, and I will do my best to try to find out what resources I can offer for you so that you can investigate into making the proper choices to ensure the future of your loved one. And last, if you haven't done so already, please participate in the polls that I have under the community section. Your input can help me create new future content for you. Also, it helps show YouTube engagement with the channel, and of course, that's part of my mission, to grow the channel and to provide content that is going to be helpful and educational for any grieving spouse or loved one. Because the grief journey is just a pure nightmare, and we really do need to have the community and the support and the love for one another. I've been Sissy, and I am wishing you much hope, light, and love. Until the next time, take care, my friend.